Well, if it is tough talk, we have heard it right from the top. The president himself has, put words there. We've also had the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Joseph Kaiseri, also coming out very tough and strong, and the IG as well. Coming out with tough talk. But is it just tough talk that's going to get this done, or do we need more? Well, I'm going to introduce the panel this morning, and I'll start with Kioko Kiilu, who is the Emergency Health Manager with Red Cross. Thank you for joining us. We have Andrew Franklin, who is a security analyst. Thank you for coming. And last but not least, we have Senator John Lonyangopuo, Senator for West Pokot. Again, thank you for joining us. Now, gentlemen, we've seen, the tough talk that's been going on, and this is an issue that has gone on and on for a long, long time. And let me start with you, Mr. Kiilu, as one who's been on the ground and, who is well versed with the area. First of all, what is the situation on the ground as we speak? Because so far, we've had very scanty information coming in from that particular area.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to this show. Currently, as we talk now, the fighting is not ongoing as we are getting the reports from the ground. It's only that there is now the consolidation of aerial surveillance and ground surveillance in terms of what is now the aftermath of the early week attacks that led to several deaths, several injuries, and of course, now that consolidation between all stakeholders is what is ongoing on the ground. Okay.
There's been dispute on the figures. We have 54, others have said 50. Yet we've had, like the police on the ground saying they have not seen any bodies. What would bring that kind of, disconnect in terms of information?
One, and I'm sure the senator is here and he very well knows the area. This is a vast grazing area. It depends on who is accessing from which corner. And this is where we are saying if I saw some bodies in point A, somebody says I did not see bodies in point B, and these were the injuries in point C, because it's about the vastity of the area. So it's not about disputing of these figures. I think the issue is what is currently happening, and that this has been decided to be done this morning, is the consolidation of the figures of what is happening in point A, B, C, D, and then this will be collected, I'm sure, before the end of the day, the government should be able to give us a clear figure of where we are on these numbers.
All right. Senator, let me come to you. And this has been going on for a long, long time. You're from the area. What would you have to say about the fact that this doesn't seem to be going, doesn't seem to be improving?
First of all, I want to pass my condolences to the families that lost their loved ones. And again, to say, join Kenyans in condemning this very brutal act that is taking place in an area which seems not to be manageable. You're asking what is really fueling it or what is really causing it. This is an area you cannot really be able to explain. The people who can tell you properly and very well are the players on the ground, people like Red Cross who are on the ground. People there, it's just like a completely forgotten area. You depend on animals for daily survival. You eat, you milk or blood or meat. I mean, an area you don't grow any crops.
Are you saying as a leader from the area you're not able to tell what's happening?
Get your facts right. I am Senator West Pokot.
Yes.
Almost 150 kilometers away from where this problem took place. This problem took place in Baringo County and Turkana County. But the residents are of Pokot origin, and they speak the same language like myself. And as a leader from that community, my interest is raised to know how they can also, this community can come up to the level where the Kenyans have reached in terms of education and in terms of the day-to-day way of living in the world.
But you've just said that we're not able to get facts from there unless we, depend on Red Cross, and Red Cross really are an independent non-part. As somebody who's a leader from that particular area, even if not the place that the incidents were taking place, are you saying that we cannot verify?
How do you verify today when there's no road network? You can't even reach there. I'm told some of you the other day when you went with your helicopters, it almost took even 2 days to trace where the problem is, where the incident took place. It's a very difficult terrain. To be sincere, it's an area which is completely cut off. You cannot even reach. So even the member of parliament and the MCS, I think they walk for days for them to be able to reach where these people are, because these are guys who go looking for where there is some little water and pasture for the animals. So it's a challenge to the country. What we are speaking here might look like a drama or a movie to other parts of the country. East Pokot district, which is also called Tiate constituency, is 43% of Baringo County in land size, which in a nutshell is equivalent to the whole of Kiambu County in terms of area. And it's being manned by one person as an MP. And if I equate with those one of Kiambu, we have about 12 constituencies. The other one we have 1. And we only have two roads that lead, that nearly go parallel to one another. As you reach Loruk, going to Churo, that is to the east, and one going to Chemolingot and Kolowo to the west. Then the rest is just no road.
Okay.
It's as tough as that.
All right, I'll come back to you and maybe you can define really what the challenge is here, because you've mentioned several things. There's a road network, there's the sheer size of the area, but we'll come down to what exactly the challenge is. Andrew, I'll come to you now. And as a security analyst, where are we going wrong? This has been going on for long.
I think we keep coming up with excuses as to why we can't bring the areas under control. We need to look next door to Uganda at what was done with Karamojong, which collapsed into anarchy when Idi Amin was overthrown. And the armories, the Uganda military armories in that area, basically the Karamojong tribesmen got hold of AK-47s and ammunition and modern weaponry, and were committing all sorts of cattle rustling, depredations, attacks, cross-border attacks. Now, interestingly, our neighbor, Uganda, brought Karamojong under control. So I would suggest that if we look at pastoralists, we look at vast, uncharted spaces, we look at traditional ways of life, cattle rustling, however you want to refer to this, we just need to look to the Ugandans and see what did they do in Karamojong. And what they did is, in fact, community development. The president's wife, in fact, took accountability for that very large district, which had no roads, which had no water, which had a traditional way of life unchanged for hundreds, if not thousands of years, but where the tribesmen, the Karamojong, got hold of AK-47s after Idi Amin was overthrown. So I think, again, we need to look at other examples around us in Africa to see how to bring this country's arc of insecurity under the control of the central government.
Okay, so we need to learn from our neighbors, Uganda. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Mary Nkai, who is an activist. Thank you for coming. And Mary, as you know, we're talking about Turkana and, you know, the challenges that have been there. And on the question of today, we were asking as to whether the government has done enough to, you know, make sure that what is happening in Turkana is brought to a stop. And I don't know what your comment to that would be, Mary.
Definitely, government has done very little to avert whatever is happening between the two warring communities, that is the Turkana, the Pokot, and add to it the Samburu. All these areas have something in common. That is, there is a lot of illiteracy, no roads, and there are a lot of underdevelopment. 50 years down the line, we still have people roaming with guns. Thank God, as I came in, I had a topic of Uganda come in again. Last time when the 21 police officers were killed, we were here again talking about what Uganda did. What Uganda did, thank God we have been sitting in those symposiums. It was the president who gave a decree that If you are found with a gun in Uganda, they clustered it and called it Karamoja cluster. Then if you are found with a gun in that cluster, you are shot. But before they did that, they gave people security and an assurance that return your guns, we are giving you the security. Is it after every 10 or 100 kilometers, you have an army base with everything they need to counter any attack or any insecurity?
But we've had Kenya give amnesty for the same, for arms to be, for the guns to be brought back.
If you had it today, I had it when I was 7 years old because I am a victim of cattle rustling. When I saw the dead woman who was pregnant, it always brings me the picture of my aunt who was killed when she was pregnant. So we have had disarmament for the last 50 years. I was 7 years old when our family was attacked. The government sent troops, disarmament after 1 month.
So where do we go wrong? What is it that they don't give the security that is required?
It is systems. It is systems. We have created, in fact, we have first of all, we have dismantled traditional systems of governance. We have replaced it with what now we call county government. And then in those county government, we have created tribal kingpins. And then when you are in power, you want to keep it. You want to be there for as long as you can. We want to create dynasties so you can do anything. I wish we can talk directly to the cattle rustlers. If you talk to them, you will find innocent and ignorant people. They don't even know why they're fighting. They don't know.
Okay.
They don't know why they're fighting.
All right, I'll come to you, Kioko Kiilu, and as a man on the ground, there's very many narratives of why this war has been there and why it's going on from the ground. And like she's mentioned, if you talk to the cattle rustlers, then you maybe get a different script written. What would your opinion be based on your experience of what the war is all about? Is it about cattle?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think the issue here is cattle rustling has been there since time immemorial. The question we are asking is, why is the dynamism changing? We are talking of increased frequency. So far from our emergency operations center in Nairobi, we've recorded over 50 instances of cattle rustling and intercommunal attacks. That translates to around 10 per month. That translates to around one after every 3 days. So it's becoming like it's a norm of the day, whereas when it is becoming like the norm of the day, we are losing lives. We are losing livestock, and we are getting injuries, and people are getting harmed. So the issue and what we are seeing even on our screens in the media, the proliferation of small arms. People are already armed. You know, those days when the cattle rustling happened, there were no loss of lives as to this magnitude. There were no injuries to this magnitude. No, the destruction is too much. Why? People are already harmed. And the key question is, for how long will they continue being harmed? Number two, the issues of borders. Who lives where and all these kind of things. Where is Kapedo? Is it in Turkana? Is it in Pokot? Where is Lomelo? Is it in, all these kind of questions unanswered. For how long will we continue with these questions and unanswered? And again, as the humanitarian actors on the ground, yes, our key core business here is relief, humanitarian relief in terms of disasters. And when this happens, we have no other than to go in and assist and alleviate human suffering on the ground for those who have been affected. But we are also being stretched because it's every other day. For example, I think nowadays, for this case, we are only focusing on Baringo. Don't forget, on Sunday, there was an attack in Baragoi. On Monday, there was an attack in Longalayani. On Tuesday, we are focusing on one, but the others. Yesterday, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Kenya Red Cross has airlifted a total of 11 casualties from Longalayani and Salima areas in Marsabit County. But this is not coming into limelight. Those are people affected. They are already now in Kenyatta Hospital undergoing treatment.
Okay.
The question is, for how long?
For how long will it continue? Senator, I'll come to you now. And some of the challenges that you've mentioned, and Mary also alluded to that, is purely on development, you know, road network and just access to some of these areas. What is the local leadership doing in terms of that? Because now we have county governments which are devolved.
I want to thank you for that question, but get it this way. In Schedule 4 of the Constitution, it is clearly defined what was devolved. But security
is not devolved. But you talked about the challenges being access and the roads.
Yes.
So what are we doing? Since that has a narrative that has gone on for so long, and still there seems to be nothing being done.
Yes, and I wanted you to get it from this perspective. And let me use the Ugandan model very fast, because that's where I come from. I come from the border of Kenya and Uganda. That's where my home is. For a mighty long time, up to the year 2006, we were moved from 1975 because of the chaos. But 2006, all of us went back home. Courtesy of the proper management of security in Uganda, that they modeled and came up with a strategy where the army is no longer to stay in the barracks. You take them to the border, as it is in physics, even in our constitution. You're supposed to put them at the border.
Okay.
Okay? And then when they secure that, even the GSU, alternatively 10 kilometers, another one 20 kilometers.
Okay.
Now, everybody inside there was full of illegal guns.
We've gone to something else. What I want to know is what the local leadership is doing in terms of addressing those issues of access, the roads. That's devolved already.
But you see, we are just 2 years into devolution. Those areas you haven't been to. The money that you are being given today for devolution is so little for roads. In fact, you've been hearing the governors are fighting with the national government for them to be given money for roads. Nothing has been given for roads. It is still with Kera and so on and so on. So no single road has been done. I mean, unless some money has been can be given. The security aspect here, the national government should have crafted security roads for them to be able to manage these warring communities. No road has been done that can be called a security road. So you even heard that vehicles for Red Cross and ambulances and the police vehicles are taking 2 to 3 days to maneuver through the valleys and the hills to get into that. This is not a flat area. The terrains that God gave us there are so challenging that when you reach there, you wonder what's happening. So to me, it is a serious, great goodwill from the national government to want to eliminate, just like they did in Uganda. And there's no harm going to learn from a neighbor. And people, although we may call them primitive, when you tell them I've given you security, watch and see. Give me these things. That's what Museveni did. Everybody now surrendered.
All right.
And even forcefully decided to take part of his state lodge there.
Okay. I'll come back to you on the local government. We're still talking about the national government, but I want to know what the local government is doing in that area to ensure that this is curbed, especially in terms of even intelligence and even informing the national government. I'll come back to you. But Andrew Franklin, Asman Kamama, the chair for the National Assembly and Security Committee, is on record requesting for there to be more police and to hire more police reservists in that particular area. Do you think it's an issue of numbers, and especially given the vast size of the place?
Well, it's not so much an issue of numbers as the fact that we are not implementing the National Police Service Act of 2011. End of story. The National Police Service Act of 2011 does have a chapter devoted to the Kenya Police Reserve, which is not being implemented at all. I think we keep dancing around the issues of why is it so difficult to give security to pastoral communities. We talk about community policing, we send people away for seminars, but if we're not looking at our own law, if the Independent Policing Oversight Authority continues to say that the national police are not organized to respond to intelligence, are not able to respond to incidents of insecurity, then we have a systemic breakdown. And now we're 4 years into
what has not been implemented?
Well, we haven't set up a Kenya Police Reserve. We don't have a combined command structure between the administration police, the regular police, and CID. We haven't reorganized the various units of the administration police. See, unlike Uganda, which collapsed after Idi Amin, so the army, the Museveni's army obviously had to take much more of a proactive role in that country. We do have structures here still. For example, the administration police, who were within the Ministry of Home Affairs, do have rapid deployment units, do have all sorts of border control units. We're not entirely certain where they're deployed, how they're deployed, who the commanders are, what their equipment is like. I believe that 4 years down the road, after that very good law was passed, we are not implementing the spirit or even the letter of the law. Yes, we could be recruiting in the counties reservists, proper reservists, who are properly organized, married up with regular units of the administration police. I think what the senator has also pointed out is an aspect that we don't like to deal with. If you look at countries like South Africa, if you look at Namibia when it was Southwest Africa, a lot of money was spent by previous regimes for security purposes, building roads to their borders, along the borders. Whether you like it or not, the apartheid regime in Pretoria was able to move troops all around that country. They had very limited numbers of manpower, high-quality manpower, very limited, mainly because of their racist government. They would only recruit.
Okay.
These are important aspects, because in the United States, our interstate highway system, which started in the 1950s, it was based on our need for security. It was not about interstate commerce. It was not about linking the East Coast of the United States to the West Coast. It was all about moving troops, war material, combat equipment across our country. And it's the interstate highway system, which is magnificent, was essentially for security purposes. We have a budget now, an allocation for 10,000 kilometers of road in this country. Most of the tenders to the so-called north, that is northeast, northwest, where we're facing different problems, those tenders are not being taken up by contractors, notionally because of security. Now, this is absurd, because if the national government says national security requires that we have military-grade roads up to our borders, not just in the northeast, but to the northwest.
They need to ensure the security for the roads to be done.
And we can then move our police around. We can then move a reorganized police service around. We can then recruit reservists, put up proper patrol bases, supervise them adequately. So we're not still talking about how do you know how many dead bodies are laying out there in the wilderness?
We still don't know, and that's the information that's coming in is still scanty. But I'll come to you, Mary, and somebody who has lived there and you know, you've experienced this wars firsthand. Do you feel like your local leaders are representing you ably and doing what is required for this war to be won?
No.
Why not?
Not now, not then, and maybe not in the near future.
Why not? Or what do you think they should do?
One, the leaders, the political leaders, the religious leaders, opinion leaders, and professionals, we should stop retracting back to our communities when something happens. Like, let's take, for example, the Sunday attack in Baragoi. The Samburus went to attack the Turkanas. The Turkanas defended themselves. The Monday attack in Nadome, the Turkanas attacked the Pokots. The Pokots defended themselves. But when we don't tell the truth, we from that area don't tell the truth. And to put this into perspective, the development in Nadome, Kapedo, Lomelo will depend on if the national government resolve the boundary issue. Because right now, I wish it was Kamama who was here, because that is the man whom we can speak from the same side. We speak from point of knowledge. Actually, just for the record, we did try to get him, but was not available. So if Kamama was here, because Senator Lonyangapua comes from west, which is very, very far from east. If Kamama was here, he will agree with me that there is antagonism between the Turkana County government and Baringo County government on development in Kapedo, Nadome, Lomelo, and Napeitom, and Kamuge, all that belt. Silale, Kuchatis, yani that area of Tiati and Turkana East. People are lost. They don't even know where they belong. The Turkana say we belong to Turkana. The Pokot say we are from Tiati.
What role can the leaders play to make sure that we find them so that they're not lost?
We speak the truth. We tell people the truth. Tell people that you are like, a good example is for the Turkanas in Baragoi. We tell them you are from Samburu County. Stay there. Report to the county government of Samburu. Report to the area MP. No matter how good or how bad he is your MP. You cannot report to Turkana East because you are not from Turkana East. And people, those who are in Nadome, the question is, Nadome is inside towards Lokori. If Lomelo is in Turkana, how can Nadome be in Tiati? Nadome is far inside than even Lomelo. Lomelo is after Kapedo, then Lomelo, and then Nadome.
Okay.
You see, we don't tell our people the truth. I come and tell them what I want them to hear. And again, another thing, during the 2013 campaigns, all of them, let me not mention names because we can say what they said. They elect me, Mary, because I will expound your boundaries. Now, the politicians, those who promised their people that we will expound your boundaries, wants to make that come to pass before 2017. And let me assure you, as we go towards 2017, the attacks will even be more frequent because we want to prove that I told you that I will make sure your boundaries has been moved from point A to point B.
So if they're not telling the truth, would you then say that it's taking a political angle if 2017 is actually predicting that it may even become worse?
Yes.
Okay. Senator, I'll come to you. Why aren't the leaders doing as, she has said, just tell the truth?
Of course, leaders are doing their best to tell the truth. But
you think?
Yes, I do. I think, because I've now been a political leader for the last 2 years inside Parliament. What is the role of leaders in the areas that have been cited? We have done our best to the best of our ability. There is a fund called Equalization Fund that was identified by the Constitution to be able to mitigate some of these areas and shortages in these communities. 14 counties that have enough problems, and those 4 counties you have just mentioned now are among them. Right now, the government has stayed with that amount of money for the last 4 years. They have never released that money. It is going to the tune of 10 billion. National Treasury. What is it for? It is meant to upgrade those areas that were marginalized to the extent that they can come up to where the others are. Water, roads, hospitals, schools. We have been pushing as leaders, all leaders. Nothing has come. So failure, national government. 2, you are asked, what about our role today? We have actually, as leaders, yesterday I was in another interview again with my colleague, an MP from Turkana East, the same area, which has a problem. And we have mentioned, we have asked the national government, which is holding security as a function, can we reorganize the issue of KPRs? Come up with a system that you can identify today boys and girls, I mean mainly boys, who are honest. The communities can identify people who can trust, who can entrust to work, and the government can be able to pay them. Just like we pushed a bill recently and it is almost being signed. I don't know why what is taking a long time for them to be given some remuneration. Like the boys you just saw moving around the gun, it's possible those on the KPRs, maybe the gun was given by the government or something like that. So formalize them. And then go further to say, where are the KPRs in Turkana, KPRs in Pokot, and mix them together.
Okay.
Come up with a formula where you can have this group of people who know the terrain, be cammed together, and get an officer from the police or AP who can be among them. The terrain there can easily be manned and understood by these people. We will take the most educated and the most brilliant people there, including me, Atiko run around. No, it is better to localize, come up with a strategy, and I was calling it ending cattle rustling.